Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. My name is Kevin Daisey, founder of Array Digital. We help law firms grow through digital marketing. Today, I have a very special guest who's a client of ours. So I'd like to welcome Chris Schmiedeke.
Hello, everyone.
Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be
I
here.
didn't butcher your name, right?
No, it's perfect. Perfect.
Schmiedeke. I tell the team all the time, they're like, how do we say his last name?
Yeah, now that you hit it right on.
Cool. So, I spent some time with you. So, welcome Chris to the show. Chris has a lot to share. He's doing some really unique stuff, and he's not afraid to try new things. And we're excited to have Chris share some of those things on the show here today for everyone tuning in. Again, this show really is we want to help attorneys out there grow their firms. So hopefully you can learn something from our guest, and Chris is one of those people that you can definitely learn a lot from. And if I can add some value too, then I'm here to do that as well. So always reach out. Got any questions, you can reach out to me or any of our guests. You can go check out the podcast page and all the different episodes, and hopefully there's some value in one of those episodes for you. I think, Chris, we're now at surpassing 250, 275. Only about 218 are live that I know of last time I checked. But we have quite a backlog. But so, Chris, this show's all about you, of course. We want to learn more about yourself and your firm. So let's start at the beginning and, tell us why you became an attorney and what that path was like.
All right. Well, that's an interesting one. So why did I become an attorney?
We have enough time.
So it's pretty simple, actually. Getting out of college and rapidly approaching the end of college, as a business real estate major, and not really interested in business real estate at that time, at least. And so I needed a new plan. I needed something new to do. So what better way than, keep going to school? I was, like most college guys, I was really enjoying school. All the social activities, that is. And then, so I just applied. I applied to a couple of law schools. I did SMU and Texas Tech, and
Awesome.
Accepted to Texas Tech. And I went out there, quite an eye-opener, going to law school for sure. It was not like undergrad. But yeah, I made it through, graduated, came back home. Job market wasn't that great. So, I kind of hung a shingle out there. I had people contact me, friends, family, like, hey, Chris, can you help me with, X, Y, or Z? And it almost always was something to do with divorce. So divorce kind of found me. I did a little bit of criminal law as well. And then one thing led to another. And man, it all went family from that point, probably back in, you're probably talking 90, 96, 97.
Excellent. So when you say home, where is that for everyone listening?
Dallas, Texas. So went to college here locally at North Texas, up in Denton, and then Texas Tech out in Lubbock, and then came back to Dallas, and I've been in Dallas ever since.
Excellent. So if everyone listening to, if you're watching, right below on the screen is a website address so you can check out Chris and his firm. And you'll already see that it's kind of unique, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, but kind of the brand and the name that he's representing. But divorcesimplified.law if you're listening on a podcast platform. So it's divorcesimplified.law. Go check out Chris. You'll immediately see kind of what makes him a little bit unique and different as far as how he markets himself and brands himself in the divorce space. So excellent. So I assume, Chris, you're a big Washington fan since you're Dallas.
Yeah, huge Washington fan. Giants, the Eagles, I love them all.
Yeah. So I'm from the Washington kind of area, so closest to it anyway. The Ravens and Washington are pretty much the same distance from me. But
yeah, I can get into the Ravens now, but Washington, no.
I can't even say their names. I don't even know what their name is anymore. So
yeah, right.
I don't even know what to do about that. But all right, so you're in Dallas. You specialize in divorce. let's kind of talk about, maybe a little bit the makeup of your firm. So, size of your firm, and I'm again talking to these smaller attorneys out there that are trying to get started, or they're maybe a few steps behind you. What's the size of your firm right now, and kind of where are you looking to go?
So I am currently I have 3 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and a legal assistant is where we are. And the attorneys, that doesn't include me. I've sort of, I've been doing this a long time, approaching 30 years in practice. And I've, the litigation stuff is it wears thin after a while. So there's only so long you can do that before it really starts to take its toll. And so a handful of years back, I hired my first attorney, and sort of pulled myself out of the litigation practice. So I pretty much focus on just running the business, and I still do the sales for the office. So I'm meeting with potential clients and all of that. So I have 3 attorneys and 2 paralegals cranking out the legal work right now.
That's excellent. So, and not something you hear often, especially at your size, which I think is something for people to note down is, I mean, a lot of attorneys, actually, I met a talking attorney yesterday, but there was partners. One runs the business and the other one wants just to be a lawyer. But they have partners at least to do that. But I talked to a lot of attorneys in here that they can't even get out of it if they wanted to, or some just maybe don't think that's an option. It's just they have to continue to do the same work. But the fact that you're working on the business instead of just in the business is a
Correct.
huge step. That's a huge step in the right direction. So, excellent. So, kind of tell me, we talked about this pre-show, but what are some of the things that you've done or invested in that's kind of helped you make that decision or go down this path?
So, well, I mean, initially, probably, I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, I was a true solo. Like for a period of time there, I was like literally the only person working. I didn't even have an assistant. And it's just, you get so busy, and you're working so many hours, and you're doing so many like lower level tasks that it becomes overwhelming. Like you're spending your whole day, back in the day, showing my age, but back in the, doing letters and filling envelopes and putting stamps on and mailing things and all of that. So, I learned pretty quickly on my own that if I hired somebody, that was not overhead, it was a revenue generation for me. So I could actually make more money by hiring somebody, which is counterintuitive, at least for young attorneys or those just starting out on their own. They think, that's just overhead, I don't want to pay that, but it's not. If you have people that are billing hourly, it's going to be a revenue generation for you, provided that you price it correctly. You need to price their time correctly. You need to be getting a return on your investment, probably at least a 3 times return on whatever you're paying them. But so I learned that early on, and I plugged along with that for a few years. And then I think it was 2014, I was pretty much surviving on my website way back then. And Google rolled out in 2014 or around that time, they rolled out some kind of update. And I was a Westlaw guy back then. And that new Google update just trashed my website. It went from, getting a decent amount of work to nothing in
Wow.
for the year. And it was ridiculous. It was the worst year I've ever had. Gross income was under 200,000. It was terrible. And just about that time I got a marketing email, the thing with marketing is you got to hit the right person at the right time and the right place kind of thing. And boy,
the right pain point.
Yep. And it struck me. It was how to manage a small law firm. And I talked to them first, and I joined them in 2015, right at the beginning of 2015. I actually went to my first quarterly meeting, and I've been with them ever since. Wow. And it was the best thing I ever did. It changed my life. I mean, and I've basically just, in general, I would say I've grown probably 20 to 30% every year since 2014. So,
that's huge.
I'm about I'm about, what is that? I'm about 7 years into this now. So it changed everything. And, you go to law school and you learn how to, you learn about the law and statutes and case law and all of that stuff, but you don't learn how to run a business, right? So unless you go out and work for somebody, you don't have the first clue what you're doing. Like, it's super easy to say, I'm going to open up an office. Give me the keys. Here's your rent. Then what? Then what do you do? What about marketing and overhead and employees and your systems and processes and all of that? That's what you learn and how to manage. It's how to run a business that happens to be a law firm, and it has really nothing to do with the law per se.
Yeah. So I guess for those listening in too, it's how to manage, which we're not affiliated with at all in any way, but we do know folks over there. We do have quite a bit of clients that are members, and we just heard nothing but good things. And I'm going to put this on the screen. But this is how to manage a small law firm is the website address. You can check them out, or if you just Google that, you can find them. But it's basically a mastermind, if you will. It's a group of your peers. They have systems and processes and how-tos on pretty much everything. And then they'll assign you people like a CFO, a CMO, a CEO to fill some of the roles that you are not familiar with. And they'll start you with a CEO. That's the first step. That's where you begin. And as you grow, you would then go to like a COO to help you with your procedures and your systems, then a CFO as you reach certain levels where you need to start knowing your numbers a little bit better. But you always start off with the CEO and you meet with them 3 times in a month. So there's quite a bit of going back and forth with them, and they basically guide you and help you along in the process of growing and get you through the growing pains and, triage emergencies and all of that. And you just pay a monthly fee for it. But I mean, again, phenomenal compared to
if you're talking to a return on investment, it's not. I mean, I went from 100 and something thousand a year to over $1 million. So
yeah,
pretty good ROI,
right? And here's the thing, and I think that's the biggest problem I see is, attorneys are not trained on how to run a business. Well, like I wasn't either. I was a digital marketer. Like, I could build websites, but it doesn't mean I know how to run a business. I just did it for a long time, but then I also get help. So I've been in a mastermind of digital agency owners. I've been in other business owner groups. So we constantly are investing in mentorship and coaches. But for anyone out there, again, that needs the help in this space, how to manage is explicit, just for you. There are other groups out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of stuff. You can find them on LinkedIn too. If you look around, there's some people that used to be involved with how to manage it split off, and they're doing that stuff. So, I mean, there's stuff out there. You just got to be careful with who you pick. I mean, because what'll happen is you'll get people that are going to just help you with your marketing, or there'll be people that are just going to help you with your systems and processes, but they don't do the whole package, which they'll say and how to manage it's 7 parts of your business, right? So you got your marketing, sales, your factory, which cranks out the work. You got your people, you got your systems and processes. And then probably the most important piece of the business is your brain. What's holding you back? Why are you not making decisions? What are you afraid of? That kind of stuff.
Your beliefs.
Yep.
You got to.
Quite frankly, that's the biggest thing that holds everybody back. If you're trying to start your own business, I would almost guarantee that a good portion of what's holding you back is between your ears.
Yep, that's right. I love it. So I think one big takeaway for everyone listening right now is there are these groups out there. There are these places you can turn to if you're stuck, or maybe you're solo and you're like, oh, man, I'm just working. And you could be 20 years in and like Chris was doing this for quite a while before he found there's a better way to do this.
Unfortunately, yeah. I wish the one thing I regret, I wish I could have found that 10 years prior to when I did. Would have been, I can't even imagine where I'd be right now.
Yeah. And so, the reason I wanted to talk about them because I knew Chris was in the group and I've heard nothing but good things. And I think that's a big help for everyone. I don't think we've really talked about the group on the show before. So, again, I'm strongly support them. And then also because, they referred Chris to us. So, I like to, send as much back as I can. I got a couple of attorneys that are small that need the same help. And I'm pushing them towards checking out the group because we can do your marketing. Like Chris, you were saying, we can do that, but we can't help you with processes. We can't help you with coaching on how to run your business. Now, could I help maybe with some thoughts on that? Yeah, maybe, but that's not what we do. And so, so they referred Chris to us and I appreciate that. And now we're working with Chris to get him going in the right direction with his SEO and his website, make sure the Google updates don't crush his business in the future. And so, check out that group. Amazing group. I've heard nothing but good things, and I'm sure we're going to be doing more with them as we go. So I'm actually starting to meet a lot of the coaches and the CEOs and stuff like that. So, good stuff. So let's change topic a little bit. Chris, so you mentioned, you've done a lot with your digital marketing, you're doing videos, you have a YouTube channel. Tell us about maybe some of the things that you've done that are unique, I guess, in your space and kind of sets you apart maybe from other divorce attorneys in Dallas per se.
I have a YouTube channel. I think you can just search law office of Chris Schmiedeke. I think it'll pull it up, but it primarily focuses on, so we have in Texas for families that have kids, when they separate or divorce, they have what's called a standard possession schedule. It's put together by the legislature, so it's statutory. And so I do a monthly video on that, on what the upcoming month looks like, because people really struggle with it. They get really confused. It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo and all of that. So they get confused. So I try to do that. That's part of like the quote unquote simplification, trying to help people understand things. And I do some other short videos on related topics, like how long does it take to get divorced and, things like that. So I enjoy that. I like making movies and editing them and doing all that stuff. So that's kind of enjoyable for me. Nice. In terms of the practice as a whole, the name Divorce Simplified means a lot of things. We try to be way more communicative, if that's a word, with our clients, involving them more as a team member, as opposed to a dictatorship of us telling you this is what you're going to do and making decisions. We try to involve them a lot more. We try to simplify our office in terms of how we handle ourselves. We try not to be too stuffy, very laid back, easy to talk to. I try to be very helpful to people, even if they're not going to hire me to represent me. I try to make sure I at least give them some kind of a game plan going forward on what they can focus on or accumulate evidence-wise, or what they need to be working on and things like that. And then for clients and former clients, they've always got an open door to come in and ask questions. And, with kids, until they're 18, you could find yourself back in court in a year. So you could go back yearly for 10 years. So, we get a lot of repeat business, but you get a lot of questions too, people who need help, maybe not necessarily in the courtroom, but they just need questions answered. And so they always come back to me. So I'm just trying to, I don't like the stuffiness of law firms. And so I'm trying to get away from that and trying to be a little bit more caring about the people that are calling us and we work for, rather than just numbers.
No, I love it. So that's what, when I first met you, the one thing I liked was that just overall feel and appearance and most of my guests are suit and tie, and maybe they're just, because they're going to be on a podcast, maybe they just think they need to dress up, but I just like that. It seems like I can go backpacking with you instead of you representing me, which is I like to go backpacking, so that's perfect. So yeah, I just love the whole look and feel. Again, I think if you guys listen and check out the website, you can kind of see kind of what he's done. And again, I like the brand too with Divorce Simplified. You could go with the law offices of Chris Schmiedeke, right? Standard, or just your name or whatever. But I just, I like the branding aspect of it.
Yeah.
And you're going to appeal to some people, and it's, you got to choose who you're trying to appeal to. What's your market?
Yeah.
So I like it. So Chris, what is a good takeaway, something you would recommend a small law firm that was in your position, let's say 2014, revenue going down, SEO was kind of a driver for you, but that went to crap. And they're doing everything themselves, or maybe they just haven't, taken the route of working on the business yet. What's something you would give them as some advice?
I think at that level, there's probably two pieces they would need to focus on. I mean, the first thing, it just depends on how busy they are. If they are, if they're working 60 hours a week, then I'd say step one is they need to get some help. They need to get a legal assistant or a paralegal. Figure out what you would bill them out at and what you're going to pay them, so that you can kind of build your ROI for them. But if you're that busy and you're working that many hours, you're just giving away a revenue stream, because what'll end up happening is you'll hire that person and you will find that you're still as busy as you ever were, but now you got two people generating income for you, right? And so it's just common sense. At the times that you are doing something where you're not billing, for instance, going backpacking, and you want to go take off a Friday and go backpacking. Well, that Friday, if you're on your own, you're not generating any income. But if you have employees, you are. So your business still runs without you. You're still making money when you're even not there. Yeah. If you find yourself in that position, I would definitely consider hiring somebody. That's probably the best thing you can do if you're super busy. If you're not super busy, then probably the first thing I would say is you need to focus on your marketing and your sales. You gotta hustle. You got to get people to your door, and then you got to convert them. Because if you can market and get people to your door and you can convert them, then all your other problems are going to solve themselves. You're going to be able to hire people. And, as that snowball keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger, and you're getting in more, you can hire more people. And then, the next thing you're not working at all. And, you're generating, tens of thousands of dollars per month, and you're not doing any of it.
Well, so those are great, I think, two different scenarios. I like that because I'm sure there's a lot of folks listening that are in different positions there. And I've actually talked to some recently that are actually in those different situations, either too busy or I don't have enough work. One thing I would say for everyone out there too, just to avoid the pitfall though of, say your marketing does really well, you bring in a lot of work, and then you go right back into doing all the work, and then you never hire the help to backfill. Yeah. And then you're just back where you started. So have that mindset and that plan that when I get the work, I'm going to bring in the people I need so that I can continue getting the work until I don't have to do any of it. So,
yeah, I mean, if you're ever telling yourself, I'm too busy, I'm just so busy, it's time to hire. I mean, I hire people when I'm not super busy, but I foresee that we're going to be busy. So I've learned to sort of preemptively hire, like right when I get to the point of I feel like people are going to start complaining about being too busy. That's when we hire, versus waiting till I'm way past that mark and everybody's overworked and all of that.
Well, too, I mean, it's not always easy to find somebody,
right?
Especially in this environment.
That's the trick.
It can be very tricky. And I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, we can't hire, we can't find anybody that wants these positions." So that's definitely something you have a bench of people maybe that are interested. And be ready to pull from that bench if you can, or if you have the luxury, you can hire preemptively and as you're seeing what's coming down the pipe. But if you have measurements and KPIs and financials, that stuff's gonna be easier to predict and hire.
Yeah.
Hire before.
That's probably a little advanced for the beginning,
Yeah.
Solo guy, but the math it's not that hard. I mean, you whatever you're going to pay somebody in a year, you probably need to increase that by about 20%. And so so if I'm paying somebody, if I gross it up 20% and I'm paying them 100,000 for the year, they need to be generating a minimum of $300,000 in income. So then you can then do the math on what their billable hour is, how many hours a week do they need to work to meet that number, and then you build it out like that.
So yeah, something you just said is something that I actually learned very recently at a workshop that I paid to go to, and it was revenue per employee is a metric you should track. And so if you have 10 employees, and for me, we're 20 some now, but you take how many employees you have, you take your revenue and divide it by that, and you'll get and then times it by 12. So I'll get my revenue divided by my employees, and then you got a revenue per employee. Well, at the thing I was at, it was the low end, it should be at 250,000 per employee. And the sweet spot for this one person was 500,000 per employee. Now, to employees, this sounds terrible, and they think, oh, you're making all this money off me, and I don't get paid that, but I'm worth that. But it's a way to run your business profitably, so that you can hire those people, you can give them raises, you can pay for benefits and a nice office and all the things that they need, and continue to be in business, because if you're not in business, they don't have a job. So,
right.
But if you have a metric like that, maybe it's not 500,000. That's, but whatever it is for your industry. But that's something that was new to me, and I learned that recently, and we're tracking that now and saying, okay, well, what is ours, and how do we affect it? How do we move it up? And and most of my people are not billing hours necessarily; they're doing the work. But
right.
But there's something to think about. Think about if you hire someone. It shouldn't just be a hit on your pay and your revenue. They should be increasing that. You should be making that back. So yeah, I think 3X is a good number to go with too.
Yeah, that's a good baseline. You probably want more, but that's a good place to start for sure, because you're covering a third of that theoretically. What they say is a third of that is covering their salary, a third is covering overhead, and a third goes to profit.
You got to have profit where we don't have businesses. So, no matter what you think, you're in business to be profitable. We're all in sales and marketing.
Yep.
So, I think if you get past that, hey, if you're an attorney, you're in sales. You have to be able to sell. You have to be able to close and get people in the door.
Or hire somebody to do it. But,
yeah. If you're not, then
you're a business person. We all run businesses. We just happen to be lawyers. So you got to change the way you look at it. Yeah,
100%. So my first employee was I hired, and I actually made less that next year, or the same. I mean, I made the same, but I now had an employee. And I was like, well, I guess this is what hiring's all about. I just didn't have a clue. When I hired my second employee, we tripled or quadrupled in revenue for the whole company.
Yeah.
But that was the difference between a performing person and a not performing person. So, that was my experience when I first hired. So, awesome. Well, Chris, I mean, already a ton of takeaways for anyone listening. If you're too busy, hire somebody. If you're not busy, you need to get into sales and marketing and start to get good at it until you can afford to hire someone to do it for you. If you don't like sales, then you got to wait till you can get out of sales and then hire someone to do it for you. If you're not good at marketing or you don't like it, hopefully you can hire us one day and we'll help you out.
Yeah, so. That's right.
And then the other big takeaway, check out how to manage or other, there's tons of other stuff out there. There's a lot of good books out there too. I even read some of the law firm books. I'm not a law firm, but I do run a business, and there's a lot of takeaways in there for me, regardless. So go seek out information, find books, find mentors, join How to Manage, or at least reach out to them. There's so many resources out there, but don't be just stuck thinking you have to figure this all out. So, That's it. Chris, anything else you want to share
No.
before we sign off?
No. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, if you want to connect with Chris, you can go to divorcesimplified.law and go to his website there. Chris, is there any other way you'd like the people listening to reach out to you?
Yeah, that's fine. They can do the contact page there. They can actually check out my cool little video ask thing and submit it,
cool.
and I'll respond in video. So I told you I love video.
Yeah, the video ask thing is really cool. Check that out. I checked that out right after we had met, and I thought that was super cool. And then stay tuned. Chris will have a new website we're putting out, and as far as some other things as well. And we'll be hopefully helping Chris grow and crush his goals. If you want to check out this podcast in the future for this episode or others, just go to raylaw.com/podcast. We have, I think last I checked, 218 live. We have another live one that comes out every single week, along with a newsletter. We share marketing tips. We share episodes from our guest on here. We also share books that attorneys have written to help other attorneys. We have a whole library full of guests that have been on the show that have written things and things like how to manage in other groups. So we'll be sharing that kind of stuff too. So there's a whole bunch of good information in those emails. And if you need any help with marketing, you can reach out to us at raylaw.com, and happy to talk to you. Any questions you have, you can be the smallest firm and either can tell you what to do, or we have a very small entry point. And we work kind of like how to manage with Chris. It's, we have different levels that we can go through. But if anyone has any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those. As far as Chris, I'm sure he's happy to connect with you and help you with anything. So, yep. Chris, thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Good to talk.
Yes, sir. Stay on with me. We'll chat backstage. Everyone else, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.